Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everybody on the call. Thank you for joining me today. Before I jump right in, I'd like to start with three quick polls. For those of you who are on the call today, we have a lot of companies who registered for today's presentation, and this just helps me to see the range of companies who I'm presenting to so I can tailor my topics and examples. My first poll is, how many employees do you have? How many employees work for you? And you can include part-time employees as well as subcontractors who work for you. So just if you could pick one of these, it's either 1 to 3, 4 to 9, or 10 or more. Okay, almost everybody's voted. A couple more. Okay, great. Okay, so let me close that poll. Second poll. I guess my question is, why are you here? Something must be happening in your business, something that you're hoping that today's presentation might solve. Tell me about those business challenges. What's happening? What's going on in your business? I've listed some common frustrations. You can pick more than one if that is the case for you. For example, does it feel like you're spending too much time putting out fires and not enough time doing what you feel you're supposed to be doing or need to be doing? What's going on for you? Great, we got a lot of people putting in finding and hiring great employees. Good, and too much time not doing what you need to be doing. Okay, almost everybody's voted. Okay, let me close this poll. And one last poll. This presentation is all about streamlining your operations by implementing processes. And I'm not planning on going into why it is important to have processes. I'm assuming you already know that, but you know what they say about assuming. So I thought I would check in to see if I'm wrong in making that assumption. So where are you at in your understanding of the need to have things in your organization proceduralized? So this is either, yeah, you know you need them, no, you don't need them. Maybe you've already got your procedures implemented, or maybe you're unsure. Maybe you're not sure. There are all sorts of people who talk about the importance and value of processes, but you're not really sure how that's going to help you. Okay, 100%. 100% here say that they need them, of those who have voted. Great. Okay, so let me close that poll. And let's get started. To start off, I thought I would provide you with a quick resume of my background to give you some confidence that this topic is one I have a lot of experience with. Some of you on the call today may have talked to me in person, may have listened to some of our videos on our YouTube channel, but I'm looking at the people on the call, and there's some who I've probably not talked to. So just as a brief background, my career spans 35 years. I started as a sales manager in my father's company. Then I started my own company. We were consulting on business development and building out process-dependent businesses. I started and sold a company. I've experienced everything you have experienced and more. I mean, I've seen it all in my own business and in our consulting. Our company, Business Design Corporation, was started in the early 1990s as a consulting company. And in the early days, and for many years, we were eMyth consultants. Many of you are probably familiar with Michael Gerber and his eMyth series of business books. But what we found was that we were delivering this sort of fire hose of theory, for lack of a better word. We were just giving tons of content to our clients, and much of it was very good stuff. But our clients were spending tens of thousands of dollars in 18 to 24 months of time after which they still didn't have processes documented and implemented. And given that that is the very foundation on which the E-Myth theory is built, we decided to focus specifically on that, on process implementation. And in 1994, we went to work on a web-based tool called the Touchstone Business System. And over the years, we've really developed more into a software company with a focus on assisting entrepreneurs, people like you, with getting your processes organized and implemented so you can manage and grow with more consistency, more reliability, and be able to train and manage employees with more ease and efficiency. There are many great books out there on business development. Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, Why Most Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. Gino Wickman's Traction. One of my favorites, Built to Sell by John Warillo. Chet Holmes's The Ultimate Sales Machine. All of these books talk about the importance and value of having documented operating procedures. None of them explain how to get your processes implemented. And that's going to be the topic of today's presentation. How do you systemize your business and streamline your operations? I'm going to lay out a 5-step plan to assist with getting your processes organized and implemented so you can create what we call a process-dependent business, a business that depends upon people following processes. Following this plan, you can create consistency, reliabilities. You can get your employees to do well what you need them to do. And as a result, you can create a company that's going to give you a little more freedom. You can actually grow your company without the stress and overwhelm that is almost always associated with corporate growth. So just a quick shout out for the importance of having documented procedures, why you need them. Processes create consistency. This is key. They help employees and management track and achieve goals, to track the results of whatever it is that needs doing and to be sure that what is being done is actually working. The key word here is the word consistency. If what is being done is done consistently, then the result of that activity is meaningful, but it's got to be done consistently. If things are being done inconsistently, how can anything be meaningful? How can anything be effectively measured? If you're doing it slightly different every time, how can you determine if what you are doing is actually working? I mean, it's maddening. Michael Gerber writes that every frustration in your business is the result of the lack of a process, that if you had that process available, you would no longer have the frustration. Documented procedures will resolve almost any business frustration you have. It just makes sense, right? Problem is that while that makes sense, what we've found, and we've been doing this a long, long time, what we have found is that even with processes, business owners get frustrated because they can't find the processes they need. And if you can't find them, people don't use them. And processes come in all sorts of formats. They come like Word documents, PDF files, checklists, videos and audios for training, spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations. And they get saved in all sorts of places on local hard drives, intranets, Dropbox folders, Google Drives, SharePoint applications. They're all over the place. And most of the time, it's a complete mess. We call it standard operating procedure chaos, or SOP chaos for short. And so we developed Touchstone to make it easier to find and implement your operating procedures. If it's easy for your employees to find the instructions they need, they can do what they need to do consistently well. And it simplifies the management process because business owners and managers no longer have to try to figure out how to manage people. And if I was on video right now, you'd see me putting air quotes around the word people. You don't have to try to figure out how to manage people. You simply need to hold employees accountable to the processes, the instructions that they agreed to follow. And by the way, this is, again, a key concept. Most managers have no management systems. They don't have a clue how to manage. They're mostly just babysitting, making sure projects are getting done. It doesn't have to be that way. If you train someone how to do something and they have the instructions to follow and they can find them, Why do you have to keep checking up on them and fixing their mistakes? A manager just needs to make sure their reporting employees are following the processes that that employee was trained to and agreed to follow. But it always comes down to finding those processes easily. Well, we focused on making it easier to find what you're looking for. So what if it was easy to find the processes you were looking for? What if it was easy for every employee in your business to find what they were looking for? What if every process was linked to a specific position in your company? What if at the click of a button, any one of your employees could access the document instructions that they need to do the job that you need them to do? So that's what we're going to talk about. How do you start? How do you create a process-dependent business? I'm going to start with what we call the 5-step plan. We've developed a 5-step systems development plan. We use this plan to help understand what are all the processes in your business and help implement them and manage them. And there are 5 steps. I'm going to briefly walk you through these 5 steps, and then we're going to dive into each one in more depth. The first is about defining the processes that you think are necessary in your organization. How do you get new leads? How do you deliver on the promises you made in that sales process? What back office procedures are going on behind the scenes, like hiring, firing, invoicing, backing up your computers, all of those administrative and financial activities? How do you guide and manage the business from where you are today to where you want to get to? So in this step, you're not describing how the process is done. That's going to come later. In this step, you're simply naming what needs to be done. And I'll give you an example of this momentarily. Step number 2 is to create a graphic picture of what your business is going to look like. We like to recommend 3 to 5 years in the future. You can always do what's happening right now, but we typically recommend let's look into 3-5 years in the future and look to see what that's like. So you're going to create your organizational chart. Once you've named the processes, you want to connect them to the boxes on your org chart. So think about this. In step 1, you've identified everything that needs to be done in the business. You've named everything. In step number 2, you've identified all of the positions in the business. And in step number 3, you connect everything that needs to happen to all of the different positions. You've created what we call functional accountability, complete functional accountability. Everything that needs to be done is being done by someone in the business. This is a very powerful step to get to. In step number 4, you're going to train and retrain your employees and get them using your processes. Frequently when we're working with clients, we get some resistance with, why do I need processes? We've been doing it this way for the last 20 years. Why do I have to all of a sudden start using processes? Well, what you need to do at this point is enroll your employees in the idea of following procedures. What's in it for them? Why is it better to follow processes instead of just winging it day by day? So in step number 4, you're going to start the implementation process. It's easy with new employees because they start from the very beginning, but with your older employees, sometimes this can be challenging. And finally, in step number 5, step 5 is all about how do you keep them current? The key here is that if everyone in the company is actually following your processes, they notice when things have changed and you get their input. How have things changed? What can we do better? Now, almost every business owner I speak to will ask me, how long is it going to take me to systemize my business? Well, it's important to know that systemizing your business, it's not a project. So first of all, you got to give yourself a break here because you're not going to do this in 2 months. Systemizing your business is a process in and of itself, and the actual writing of your procedures is ongoing. It never ends. But that said, in that 5-step plan that I just laid out, these first 3 steps create what we call the foundation of your business-dependent business. It's systemic infrastructure. And depending on the size and complexity of your business, it doesn't take long. I mean, we've done it in as little as 3 or 4 hours, but it absolutely, we've never had it take more than 10 hours. So assume it can take about 6 to 10 hours to develop this systemic infrastructure, the foundation on which you'll start writing and implementing your processes. And this will be a very powerful series of steps to have taken. You'll have a fairly complete list of all of the processes that happen in the business, basically a blueprint of your business in terms of all of its operating procedures. You'll have a clear understanding of all of the positions, a blueprint of your business in terms of your employees. You'll have position-specific operating manuals for every box on your organizational chart. Everything that has to be done has been assigned to a position, and an employee will be filling that position. Now, as you're growing, a lot of you said that you have 1 to 3 employees. As you're growing, you're going to find that you have yourself, you might be in 3 or 4 boxes on your organization chart. If you've got 4 to 5, 4 to 9 employees, same thing. You might have multiple people in multiple boxes. Nevertheless, everything that has to be done has been assigned to a position, and an employee will be filling that position. You'll have created complete functional accountability. You'll no longer need to wonder why something didn't happen. And again, this really doesn't take very long, 6 to 10 hours at most. Okay, so we're going to go into the 5-step plan in detail. And I'm going to be toggling between our PowerPoint presentation and a Touchstone application. I'll get to that in a moment. In the first step of the plan, it's all about naming the processes in your business, just naming them. And in this step, I want you to think about your business in a new way. I want you to rise above the landscape and think of your business as having 4 key functions. There are really only 4 key functions in your business. Getting the business, these are all of your sales and marketing processes. Doing the business, these are all the processes for delivering on the promise that you made during the sales procedure. So these are processes for client fulfillment, customer service, all of the processes that directly relate to what you do for your clients. Running the business, these are all the processes that go on behind the scenes, invoicing, collections, basically all of the financial, administrative, human resource type processes and IT type processes. And you might say, well, we don't have an HR department. And I would say, well, you might not have an HR department, but you have HR type processes. You should have processes for hiring employees, for firing employees, for you know, even as simple as that, but you know, onboarding employees and training employees. These are all HR type processes. And then finally, the 4th key function, the strategic processes for leading and managing and guiding the business from where you are today to where you want to get it to. In the simplest of terms, as I mentioned, there are really only 4 core activities that happen in a business. You've got to get the business, you've got to deliver on the promise, you've got to collect and pay for the goods and services that were performed, and you've got to guide and manage things. So this becomes your process database. This is where you will store all of your systems, all categorized in 4 simple key functions. I'm going to toggle over to a Touchstone account. This presentation is not a demo of the Touchstone Business System. I'm simply using it to show you what is available to you. You can do these exercises. In fact, you could do this exercise in a Word document, in a spreadsheet, even with a pen and a piece of paper. And I encourage you to take this step. But that said, we've been using different types of tools to help companies organize and implement their operating procedures for more than 20 years. Touchstone is by far and away the best tool available for this need. It's been designed for process implementation. And while this is the first of 5 steps that we're going to go through, you're going to see how Touchstone is designed to integrate all 5 steps. And that is our proprietary information, our proprietary or intellectual properties, that integration of all of the processes with the boxes on the organization chart, the integration of the organization chart with your processes to create position-specific operating manuals. Again, this is what facilitates the finding of the processes. So in this first step of the 5-step plan, we're simply naming and organizing your processes. You're not describing how the process is done. You are not writing the process in this step. That's going to come later. You want to focus on building out this framework, this infrastructure. And your processes are going to get organized in these 4 key functions. These are the 4 key functions I just mentioned: getting the business for sales, doing the business for client fulfillment, running for the back office procedures, guiding for strategy and management. Within each of these key functions, processes get organized in categories that we will call sub-functions. And again, you can do this in a spreadsheet or on a piece of paper. You're just starting to now organize all of the sales and marketing processes into categories. Now, we're not focusing on a key industry today. We often do that. So we'll do a presentation for property management companies or for HVAC contracting companies, for example. Sometimes we do presentations for specific industry groups, but because there are all sorts of companies in different industries on today's call, I thought I would start with just looking into, think about getting the business, the sales and marketing of your products and services. And I like starting here because selling is sort of where everything starts. Selling really starts the whole business cycle. In this key function, we create subcategories that correspond to your selling process. Now, I like to think of selling as both an art and a science. Generally, we recommend categorizing your processes, your sales processes, into 3 or 4 subcategories. Typically, we say you've got processes to generate leads, or what you might call advertising. You've got processes for qualifying and nurturing these leads into converted sales. If you study anything about selling, you get a lot of leads who aren't qualified, and you should not be going after those leads. And you get a lot of leads that are just not ready to buy. And these are leads that you need to convert into sales. And then you get a very, very, very small percentage of leads that pull the trigger when you originally introduce the idea. So you've got advertising or lead generation, you've got qualification and nurturing and converting these leads into sales. And then you have processes for retaining these clients for future opportunities. So client retention, cross-selling, upselling. Now, when you're organizing your processes, you could put them all under one category called sales and marketing, or you could make it easier on yourself and start thinking of your processes in these subcategories. But we're only talking about sales processes at this point. Now, one thing that's important to note here is that your salespeople, for example, don't have to come here to hunt for what they need. When an employee logs into their dashboard, I'm going to come over here. If you've got employees set up in a Touchstone account, Touchstone knows who they are and immediately provides them with their position. So I know that in this case, you'll notice that I'm in 2 positions. And I can click on any one of these positions, and all of the processes that I need, the ones I've been trained in, are right here. I don't have to be searching around for what I need. Everything I need is right here. Now, we're going to go into this in a minute, how to link the processes you've created to specific positions. But for the moment, know that it is really easy to find exactly the processes you need to do your job. And if I click on a process, the free month welcome call, for example, you see that there is a work plan and there are a couple of scripts. And if I click on the work plan, the welcome call, I get all of the instructions that walk me through the welcome call process. They're all presented here along with the other links that I might need. So links to the voicemail script or the live script, depending on whether or not I reach the prospect or the new client. So if I'm making this welcome call and I reach their voicemail, I can simply click here and I have a script to follow. Scripts are not meant to be read on the phone, although voicemail scripts, they do work pretty well that way. They're not meant to be read on the phone. They're really designed for role playing and training. So this would be a better example here. If I reach the contact, use this script. These are scripts that we write to role play and train customer service reps. And if, as they walk through the process, they actually get the client to schedule their orientation meeting, they can click right here and it goes to the next process they need for scheduling that orientation meeting in the CRM application. So again, it's just makes it so easy to find what you're looking for, this tool. And we've been systemizing companies for years and years and years using Word and Google Docs and all sorts of different things. We just really focused on this. Let's go back to where we were, back to the 4 key functions. I can click on any of the 4 key functions here. If I click on guiding the business, for example, I can start seeing the processes I need for strategy and management. The 4 key functions are here to help you think about all of the processes that you have in your business in a very structured framework. And again, in this first step of the 5-step process, we're naming processes. We're going to get to writing them in a later step, but now it's really important to create that foundation or the structure that I spoke of. I wanted to give you an example. I mentioned this a moment ago. I was working with a client and I asked them, what do you do to get new business? And the response was, oh, well, we just analyzed our database to get a list of clients who had not made a purchase in the last 12 months, but they had previously purchased more than $2,000. And then we exported this list into a file, and then we created an email and we merged this list into Now, I stopped them at this point. Can you see that what he was describing to me were all the steps of the process, how they did it? And I stopped them and I said, my question was, what do you do to get new business? Not how. We're going to get to that later. So if what you are describing to me were a process, what would the name of that process be? The client thought about it for a moment and he said, retargeting past clients. And I thought, great, let's go to getting the business, because that's really a sales process. Let's add a new process and let's call this process retargeting past clients. Yeah, oops. Sorry, hit the caps lock key. Retargeting past clients. And I clicked save. And then I said, so what else do you do? And he said, well, we do Facebook advertising. And I said, great, let's put in Facebook advertising. So we put Facebook advertising. I said, what else do you do? And he said, well, we advertise on LinkedIn. I said, great, LinkedIn. What else do you do? Well, we do trade shows. Great. What else do you do? Well, we do email marketing. We do blogging. And as he named his processes, we wrote them down. Can you see that we're just naming the processes? We're listing everything down. And step by step, we went through all of his 4 key functions. After I asked him about how did he get new business, I asked, well, what do you do after you get a lead? And he said, well, we qualify the lead, and then we create a proposal, and then we present the proposal, and then we follow up on the proposal. All of those are processes. And then I said, well, what happens when they sign the proposal? Well, then we do this, and then we do that. And we went through each of these 4 key functions, and step by step, we identified every system he could think of. Now, when you're first starting out, when you get if you did choose a new Touchstone account, or if you're using a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, your paper is blank. These key functions are blank. So to assist you with understanding the processes in your business, you can access our process libraries. We actually have, as I said, we've been doing this for a long, long time. And if you have a Touchstone account, you can come up here and actually put your cursor over the Add from Process library, and you can access all of the processes in a library up here. So we've got processes for each of your key functions. For example, you can download the new employee onboarding. I'm going to give you an example in a moment, but you'll notice that you've got new employee search, new employee interviewing, new employee introduction, new employee onboarding, new employee training. You can put a check mark on one of these and click save and download that process into your Touchstone account. And these are great because they're fairly generic in nature, but we've been systemizing companies for more than 20 years now, and this is sort of a collaborative process of bringing together processes that work that you can then download into your own company and start editing and saving and implementing right away. So this is a really great process because you can this tells you how to prepare the employee for coming. It gives you a work plan for their first day of training. It gives you a 30-day review, a 60-day review. It gives you a checklist for things like, have you got your W-4s done, your I-9s, have you got their email accounts set up? Just different information that you can walk through. But again, the idea here is name your processes. And what we recommend is that you go through the exercise of naming your processes. And once you've done that, then come to our libraries and supplement what you've already thought about with the processes in our libraries. Okay, step number two. Step number two, I mean, at this point, you've built a fairly good list of your processes. Now you want to create that graphic picture of what the business is going to look like organizationally. Who's going to be helping you with selling? Do you need someone to do your social media? Do you need someone for your website development? How many salespeople do you need? How many back office support people do you need? If you've already done this, then this is going to be a pretty quick step. But now is the time to get your organizational chart current. Many of you on the call today probably have an org chart, but question is it current? And even a better question is, how do you use it? Most organization charts are done following an assignment that was given to the business owner by a consultant. And it's a great assignment. Problem is, it gets filed away. It's rare that the org chart is actually used in the day-to-day or month-to-month development of the business. So how can you use your org chart? Well, obviously, your org chart will help you define all of the positions in your organization and who everybody reports to. But what if your org chart could tell you who to hire next? How much you can afford to pay that new hire? How quickly you need them to achieve a return on your investment? What is expected of them? How they will be able to achieve what is expected of them? What if your org chart could show you who does what in your organization so you can be sure that everything that needs to be done is being done by someone in the company? Your org chart has value. It's not just an exercise. On the contrary, it's really a strategic growth tool. We give you, in Touchstone, we give you an org chart, just a sort of a generic org chart, and you're going to edit this org chart to match your 3 to 5 year growth plan. It's very simple. You can add positions, you can delete positions, you can edit the names of any positions simply by clicking on them, highlighting the text, putting in whatever you want, clicking save, and it will put that new position in there. You can move any positions around. Everything in Touchstone is drag and drop. So again, we recommend building out the org chart of your future business, say 3 to 5 years from now. You'll find that it will be fairly similar to the business you have now. You'll just have more people. And where you might have one person in more than one position now, as you grow, those positions will get filled and your people are not going to be spread so thin. And the beauty of this is if you're in this position and in this position, you want to go to work on this position and create a list of processes for that position so that you can get out of that position, put someone else in that position. So you get out of that position, you go up into this position, and you manage that position according to the processes that are in that box. And now the age-old thing that happens to so many people, and Michael Gerber talks about this, you get out of the box, back in the box, out of the box, back in the box, out of the box, back in the box, because this person doesn't work out. So this is just a great opportunity. Creating the org chart of your future vision really turns your org chart into a strategic growth tool. You will actually use your organizational chart for the planning and growth of your business. Okay, in step number 3, you're going to link the processes that you've named in your 4 key functions to specific positions on your organization chart. Now you can start to see where this gets sticky if you're not using a tool like Touchstone. If you've got all of your processes identified in a spreadsheet, and then you've got maybe a PowerPoint presentation of your organization chart, how do you actually do this? The point is to make it ridiculously easy for anyone in your company to find what they need. So they can simply click on their position and they get a list of everything that you need them to do. They don't need to hunt for their processes because they're all in one place. So again, you can do this manually if you like. It's just that we have a lot of people who come to us who have already done it manually and their processes are a mess. In Touchstone, you can actually do this by clicking on a specific box on your org chart and then coming up here and choose to add existing processes or add new processes. But when you're first getting started, we recommend going back to your 4 key functions list, starting at the beginning and moving through each process. So you select the process and then you come up here and you say link to job description. This will actually bring up the organizational chart that you created in the previous step, and you can select one or more positions who need to access this process. So you're basically sticking it on their job description by clicking on it. So now it's on 2 different job descriptions. It's on the manager of marketing and sales and the lead generator. And that's all there is to it. You go through each of the processes on your in your 4 key functions list. You just walk through all of these processes and you link them to who will be accountable for following those processes. And once all of your processes have been linked to boxes on the org chart, you'll have position-specific operating manuals for every box on your chart. You'll have complete functional accountability. You've identified everything that has to happen in your business, and you've assigned it to positions on your org chart. So now this view contains exactly the same content as the view that I showed you earlier in the control panel or on the dashboard. So these are the, 16, 18 different processes. In the dashboard, we even make it simpler because you can click on the customer service role, and that specific employee can actually organize their processes from their job description into groups that make sense to them. So they can customize the look and feel of their job description. And this is all mobile compliant. So if they need to complete checklists or fill in forms from a mobile device, that's all available to them here. I want to say a quick word about job descriptions. Most of the job descriptions that we see are usually only used for hiring. Once the position is hired, that job description, it gets filed away until a new employee needs to be hired for that position. And then, you know, the manager or the owner, they go looking for that old job description. They determine whether or not it's accurate. They make the changes, they hire the person, and they file that thing away again. And the process continues over and over again. What you're seeing here is the typical job description. And I'll bet you if you looked at your job descriptions, it's going to look something like this. This is what one of our clients was using as a job description before becoming a client of ours. As you can see, it is sort of a description of the job, but it's really an advertisement. It's a job description that would be used for external purposes. What if a job description was a position-specific operating manual, a list of all of the processes and expectations that someone hired for that position was expected to follow, something that was used not only to hire them, but also used to train them, manage them, and evaluate them. So this type of a job description, this touchstone type of a job description, is used for internal purposes, and it gives you actual processes for management, evaluation, training, and hiring. And because it's used to evaluate the employee, both the employee filling the position and the manager of that employee, they tend to keep their eyes on it. So the processes tend to stay current, and the processes on the job description tend to stay current. In fact, when these tools are actually used in the week-to-week management and the day-to-day operation of a business, your processes will stay current organically. It's really easy to keep them up to date. So in step number 4, you're going to start implementing your processes. And you can do this as soon as you've written 1 or 2 processes. In fact, we totally recommend that. Don't wait until every process is written before you start introducing this idea of following processes to your staff. Jump right into it. And implementation is all about, let me just go to the organization chart. Implementation is all about creating a clear and accurate picture of what an employee in that position needs to be doing, what I need to teach them, what I need to follow up with them about, what I use to manage their results. All of it is depicted in their job description. What is good about this type of a job description is that it makes it very tangible. Management can be a very difficult thing when you're trying to manage people who have not had much training. I mean, all of you must know this. when you're essentially making it up as you go along, or they're making it up because they learned by watching someone else. And it's not fair to criticize the employee when a manager has not been held accountable to showing them how to succeed in a tangible way instead of "I told you so." The job description fills that purpose in management. And there are two types of training: new employee training and ongoing training. The job description is key for both of those management purposes. Let's talk about new employee training. I'm going to come back to the dashboard and I'm going to click on John Smith. Let's just say I've hired John Smith as a new customer service rep. Again, the job description can be used as a checklist for tracking the training and making sure that they're trained in everything necessary for them to do their job the way that you need it done. So I'm going to start working with John. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first process on, this is what we looked at a moment ago, and I'm going to select it. And I'm going to walk through this with John. And I'm going to say, so does that make sense to you? When I'm done, I'm going to say, John, does that make sense to you? He says, yes. I address any of the questions. I move this over to trained, and then I go back to the next process tool. Let's do these scripts. Let's look at these scripts. And step by step, I go through them. I train him. And once I'm done, I click the train all button. And now you'll see that when I look at the customer service rep, I can see that I've trained him in the free month call. And step by step, I will walk through one process at a time and train them on how to do that work. Now, it sounds simple, right? I mean, it just looks so easy, and it's beautiful when it works this way. That said, there are always going to be instances when a process hasn't been documented, or you might say something like, well, I just did that yesterday. I'm not going to bother doing it again, so it's not really a process. You know, these things come up. If your mind's going there right now, let go of those variables and focus on what is consistent. The majority of what all employees do, whether you believe it or not, is rudimentary and consistent. Some of it's more complicated than others based on the work they do or the industry that you guys are in, but the majority of it is consistent. As a manager, I'm going to look at the job description for the new employee who's coming into this position, and I'm going to start considering, how long does it take me to train these steps? Because one process, it might take 20 minutes. Another process might take several hours. Who knows? Maybe a process is going to take several days. When I add up all that training time and I multiply it by what you pay that position, and you add in management time, you now have a really good sense of what it's going to cost you to hire a new employee for that position. And you're going to know how long it's going to take to get that new employee up to speed. This is a really, really important thing to know, because if we go back to the organization chart and you're considering who you're going to hire next and you're growing your company, you need to know this information. If you can tell me exactly how long it's going to take me to hire this new employee and how much money it's going to cost me, you've just unlocked this puzzle between sales and operations. This is so often the chicken or the egg issue. People don't know, well, should I hire more operational people? Should I hire more salespeople? If you get a lot of new salespeople and you don't have the operational staff to be able to handle it, you're going to get a lot of angry clients. If you have a lot of operational staff and not enough salespeople, well, you're probably not going to be very profitable. And the job description is key to this. Additionally, with new employee training, if I've hired someone and made a mistake, I'm going to be able to spot it much sooner if I'm walking them through a step-by-step training of every process like this. If I'm walking them through all these processes. If I hired someone last year and I know it should only take 40 hours to train them in all of these processes, and I've got a person that I'm currently training and we're at 30 hours and I'm maybe halfway through, they're just not getting it. I can cut my losses with this new employee early, and I can save a ton of money. There's some astonishing statistics out there by consultants who have studied this situation, and it is incredibly costly to hire the wrong employee. Not only is it incredibly costly to hire the wrong employee, but according to Brad Smart, he wrote a really good book called Top Grading. Brad Smart writes that 75% of the time companies are failing at their hiring process. That means 3 out of 4 new employees is a mishire. And he goes into great detail on how expensive this can be, what a huge cost in time, energy, and frustration it can be to your company. But really what it comes down to is the lack of a hiring process, the lack of a training process, and the lack of management processes. And again, we've built these processes into a library, so you can simply come up here to your 4 key functions, and you can click on add from process library, and you can download processes like new employee search, new employee interviewing, new employee onboarding, new employee orientation and introduction, new employee training. All of these processes are available to you that you can download into your own organizational chart and Touchstone account. So I can save the company a ton of money, and honestly, I can save the new employee a lot of frustration and a lot of time by letting them go. They're simply not going to be able to succeed at this job. The job description can help you gauge whether or not you've got that right person for the position. It makes it tangible, and you can knock someone like Brad Smart, that 3 out of 4 mishires. If we could save you 1 mishire, we could save you so much money. Briefly, let's talk about ongoing training. If I have a problem with an employee, I can always refer back to their job description. If I have someone in a position and they're not achieving expectations, we go back to the job description and we look at the process that they're failing at. We can discuss how are they using it. We can look at others in the organization and see if they're failing at it as well. We can discuss if this employee is actually using it. Are they following the process? We can have a conversation about the process. Is the process not working? Is it simply not working for them? So you can hear the tone of my voice. It's not, what's wrong with you? I've told you 5 times to do it this way. You never listen to me. You're insubordinate. We don't have to go there. Using a job description takes all of that energy out of the equation. It's no longer personal. It's a conversation about the process. It takes all of the emotion and angst out of management. In fact, it makes managing easy. You simply have to hold employees accountable to the processes that they agree to follow. It's no longer about blame. The tone of management changes completely. So the job description also helps with communication. If the employee is asking me a lot of questions, I can refer them back to their job description. You know, if they're clocking in their hours incorrectly, I can just say, look, go back to the process, reread it. Let me know where you're going wrong. It's all there. I don't have to retrain them. If they need access to information, go look in Touchstone for it. The documentation is all there. If they have a question, chances are it's in the process. You know it's there because you wrote the process. So you direct them back to where the content is stored, and they don't have to go hunting for it. All of the content they need is linked to their position. So the minute a manager changes their tone and makes the employee accountable to what they're responsible for, and it's done in a very tangible way on a job description, for example, the employee learns something new and it redirects your whole business in a new direction. It takes time to get there. It takes time for the employee to get used to it, but it's so completely worth it in the end. Okay, so at this point, you're starting to get your processes implemented and you want to get more input from your employees. We call this process innovation. If your staff is using their job description and they're following their processes, they're going to keep these processes current for you organically. They're going to start letting you know which processes need to be changed. Now, there's a great process, a great management process in the library in Touchstone. It's called the so I'm going here, sorry. We're going to talk about innovating. This is the 5th step in the systems development plan. There is a great process in the library. If you come into guiding the business and add from process library, it's called the one-on-one meeting. So you can come down here and you can select it and click save. And it will download this one-on-one meeting into your Touchstone account. And by the way, we have all of these processes available to you if you're interested. Using this process, the manager meets with their reporting employees on an ongoing basis. Could be once a week. In fact, that's what we recommend. Could be twice a month, or at the very minimum, once a month. Most managers, they micromanage their employees' projects. There's very little structure. They ask about stuff when they think of it or when something bad happens. The one-on-one meeting is an opportunity to truly manage people. It's a management process. The meeting is not only used to check in on projects, it's used to minimize what we call the got-a-minute meetings. Do you ever have that? People come in and say, hey, Mike, you got a minute? These meetings never last a minute. They're almost always an interruption. They're incredibly inefficient in terms of time management. And if someone comes in to me and says, hey, Mike, you got a minute? I always say, can it wait until our one-on-one? Because if an employee knows he or she is going to be meeting with me in a couple of days, because we've got that regularly scheduled one-on-one meeting, they can hold their questions or issues until then. They can batch things, and then we can meet. It's time that I've set aside to address those issues. Unless, of course, it's an emergency or it's urgent, in which case we can address it right away. So the one-on-one is time for a manager to have a reporting employee address those issues, but it's also an opportunity to do process evaluation or review. With my reporting employees, frequently I ask them to revisit an existing process that's on their job description. So I might say, can you follow that process as if you don't know how to do it between now and the next time we meet, just to determine if it's still accurate. And then when we get together, we review, yeah, it's still accurate, or we innovate it, we make changes. So from this point forward, you can start doing these ongoing process reviews, as well as getting input from your employees who use the systems as to what could be done better. When you get your people contributing to the efficiencies of your business by innovating these processes, it starts to build buy-in and a better understanding of the value of processes. What we feel is they feel heard. It's quite a remarkable transition for employees. So how do you get all of these processes written? It's a valid question, because I talk about the first 3 steps take less than 10 hours. Writing and implementing processes is an ongoing thing. How do you get the processes written? Well, I've talked about the library, the general process library. We have more than 20 years of experience helping systemize businesses. As master certified eMyth consultant, we delivered the eMyth mastery program to hundreds of companies just like you. And we've collected operational procedures from that work, and we've repurposed them and made them available to you in a general process library. We also, by the way, have process writing services. Some of our subscribers hire us to get them. Oops, that's not supposed to be there. Sorry. Some of our subscribers hire us to get them started. We work with the business owner as well as any of the key managers and even frontline employees to help get those instructions out of the employees' heads and into a documented format. And this is great because employees, they learn how to start thinking systematically, they learn how to write processes, and they actually develop a really great understanding of how to implement them. And it all happens while your processes are getting written. And I write more to come because we're always developing content, and as these processes are written, we let our clients know about them. That said, clicked the wrong button. That said, there are also other ideas. Another method that's worked really well with our clients is to create a monthly workshop. So you pick a process on a job description. You speak with the employee or the employees who are in that position. Could be one, could be several. Ask them, over the next few days, maybe the next week, think about how they do that process. So let's assume this process isn't written yet. Think about things like, what steps do you take? What do you do? What materials do you use? What things do you say? So think about things like that. And then have them consider this for a few days. Ask them to pay attention to what they do with the intention that we're going to come together in a week's time or however long it's going to be and get that process written up. And then on a specific date and time, you come together and collaborate to get it documented and shared. And so instantly you've got it documented and implemented. And you could do this, what we call a lunch and learn. You could do this during lunch. It's a great, great way of getting processes written. Another way of getting your processes documented is when you're training a new employee. So let's say I've got all these processes on a job description, they're not written yet. when I hire someone and we start walking them through the welcome call, I'm going to say, you know what I need you to do, John? I need you to write down what I'm telling you. And then I'm going to give you some time later on today to write your notes up. And then tomorrow we're going to review what you wrote and we'll edit anything that was left out. So think of how well trained they're going to be. You're telling them how to do what you need them to do. You can be sure that they're paying attention because they know that they're responsible for documenting what you're telling them. And then they're writing it up, and then you're reviewing it with them the following day. So it really lands the training and the process. Okay, to wrap up, the focus of today's presentation was the 5-step plan. Identify the processes, build your org chart, link them together, begin the implementation process, keep them current, innovate them, keep them current. I've used the Touchstone Business System as a tool to help you walk through the 5-step plan. You probably could do this using tools like Microsoft Word, Google Docs. I say probably because I've seen many a company who comes to us after trying, but almost always what they've developed is disorganized and out of control. If you've started writing your processes, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's what we refer to, again, as SOP chaos. And these clients come looking for a tool to help them get their processes organized and implemented. Your processes are useless if they're just written down. If they're not implemented, they're useless. And Touchstone is designed to make it easier to write your processes, to create a process-dependent business instead of a people-dependent business. It's designed to make it easier to train and manage your employees, to give them a really easy way to find the instructions they need so you don't have to be telling them over and over and over again. Again, managers, they can manage reporting employees to the processes that each employee has been trained on. Once they've been trained, there's no excuse. If an employee forgets what they're supposed to do, they can quickly access what they need with a click of a button. You probably, just so that you know, a Touchstone subscription, it's $149 a month on a month-by-month basis. But we have an offer right now for the first 15 people who choose to go for it. You should have received an email with a green button. The first 15 companies who click that button will get a better than 50% lifetime discount off a Touchstone subscription. You just have to click that button, submit your form, and you can get an account for $69 a month. So it's basically the retail value of Touchstone is $149. The 16th person, they're going to have to pay $149. The first 15 can get it for $69 a month. That's a 53% savings every month for as long as you keep your account active. We also give you a complimentary live online meeting with one of our process engineers so that you get familiar with your new application. But I only have 15 subscriptions available at this price, so you got to take action now. By the way, the offer is risk-free. If you're not 110% satisfied, just cancel your account during your first 30 days, request a full refund, not a problem. So that email should be in your email box right now if you want to check. So that's my pitch for Touchstone. Hopefully you found this interesting. Let me just check to see if there are any questions. Any questions? Oh, so yeah, I do have a question. Hold on a second. It's so hard for me to see the questions in this GoToMeeting box. I'm a small beauty business. How long do I need to subscribe in order to get this amazing tool? You could subscribe. It's all month by month. There's no term agreement or anything. You can subscribe month by month, but what I will say about that is that when you're using Touchstone, your processes are dynamic. If everything that you create, everything that you download from Touchstone, you can offload it. You can cancel your subscription and offload it to your local computers as Microsoft Word documents. In fact, you could literally get a Touchstone subscription right now for $69. You could offload all of our general processes and then cancel and ask for your money back. And you get everything, all of our content free. It's not going to do you much good because it's not easy to implement. As soon as you start working from Word documents, you're working from a static environment, not a dynamic environment. So to answer your question, Evita, you could do it for as long as you want. Step by step, try it out, see how it's working for you. If it's not working for you, you can stop at any time and offload any of your content. Are there any other questions? I'm not seeing any. So if you have questions, feel free to email me at mmills@businessdesigncorp.com. If you're interested in a demo, let's go to businessdesigncorp.com and register for a demo. Call me. I'm happy to answer your questions. I love this, doing, solving this puzzle of process implementation. Also, come to our website, businessdesigncorp.com. We have a ton of free information on our website that you can access. And we also have a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and search for businessdesigncorp.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel. There are hundreds of videos on process implementation, on job descriptions as a management tool, on all sorts of things there. So I want to just thank everybody for coming today. I appreciate you listening to me. I hope you found this information valuable. If we can be of any service, please reach out to me, Michael Mills, 707-522-6253, or mmills@businessdesigncorp.com. And here's to getting the business you deserve.